She moved into a new cabin on Thursday night. By midnight, something was under her bed. Not the house, not the wind. Something breathing, something bleeding, something with gold eyes that looked straight at her like it was its last hope in the world. She should have run. She didn't. And that one decision changed absolutely everything.
Her name was Lily Tran, 11 years old. Quiet, small. The kind of girl nobody really noticed. But Lily noticed everything. She noticed the things other people walked past. The broken things, the hurting things, the things hiding in the dark that nobody else stopped to look at. That was her gift. That was her curse. Because on the first night in her new home, something broken and hurting and hiding in the dark looked back at her, and Lily Tran could not walk away. What happened next will change everything you thought you knew about courage, loyalty, and what it really means to belong. This is her story.
The first thing you need to know about Lily Tran is that she was the kind of girl who always stopped to check on broken things. She was 11 years old, small for her age, with dark hair that never stayed in its braid and eyes the color of pine trees after rain. She wasn't the loudest or the bravest, but she noticed things other people missed, and she cared about those things in a way that went all the way down to her bones. It was a Thursday in October when Lily and her mother drove down a long, winding road to their new home. They had left their old house because Lily's parents had decided they could no longer live together. Her father went to the city. Lily and Mama Tran went to the cottage. The cottage was small and white, with peeling paint and a crooked shutter. Behind it stood a wall of dark trees so thick they looked like they had no end. That night, Lily lay in her new bed listening to the old house settle and creak. She was almost asleep when she heard it. A sound. Right below her. Under the bed. A weak, thin scratching. And then a whimper so small and tired it broke something open inside her chest. Lily did not scream. She did not hide under her blanket. She picked up her phone, turned on the flashlight, got down on her hands and knees, and looked under the bed. What she saw made her breath stop. A tiny creature, covered in dark matted fur, pressed against the wall. Almost like a wolf pup, but not quite. Its paws were too big, its face was too knowing, and its eyes, when they turned to look at her, were gold. It was bleeding, it was barely breathing, and it was looking at her like she was the last good thing left in the world. "Hey," Lily whispered, "I see you. You're going to be okay." She reached her hand out slowly, palm up. The creature stretched its nose forward and touched her fingers with its cold, damp nose. Something locked into place inside Lily's chest, warm and certain. She pulled her bluebird quilt down to the floor and got to work.
Lily stayed up all night. She filled a bowl with warm water and tore an old t-shirt into strips to clean the creature's wounds. She didn't know what it was. She didn't let herself think too hard about that yet. All she knew was that it was hurt, and she was here, and those two facts were enough to keep her moving. The cuts were deep in places. Whatever had hurt this creature had not been gentle about it. "This is going to sting a little," Lily warned it softly. "I'm sorry." The creature made a low sound but did not move away. It kept its gold eyes on her face the whole time, watching her with a patience and a steadiness that did not feel like any animal she had ever seen. By midnight, she had the wounds cleaned and wrapped as best she could. She wrapped the creature in her warmest blanket and sat on the floor beside it with her back against the bed. She must have fallen asleep because when she opened her eyes, morning light was coming through the window. And the creature was changing. It was not fast. It was slow and strange and almost quiet. The fur along its face was pulling back. Its nose was shifting. Its small, curled hands, because they were hands now, she could see fingers, were reaching out from the edge of the blanket, like it was searching for something to hold. Lily sat very still and watched with wide eyes. When it was over, the creature lying wrapped in her blanket was still mostly wolf pup, but its face held something almost human in it. A shape of thought, a depth of feeling. It opened its eyes. Still gold. "You're safe," Lily told it, even though her voice shook a little. I've got you." She named it Gray, because of the color of its fur and because everything that morning felt in between, not quite one thing and not quite another. Gray blinked at her, and for just a moment, she would have sworn it understood.
Gray got stronger slowly. By the second day, he was lifting his head. By the third, he was drinking water from a bowl Lily set beside him. She fed him bits of cooked chicken she made on the excuse that she was hungry, so her mother wouldn't ask too many questions. Mama Tran was busy unpacking and calling people about bills, and was the kind of tire that makes a person look right past things. Lily was grateful for that, for now. But strange things were happening around the cottage. The flowers Mama Tran had planted by the front step wilted overnight, even though the weather was mild. The birds that usually sat in the oak tree stopped coming. And every morning Lily noticed the same thing when she looked out her window at the wall of trees behind the house. The trees were leaning forward. Not much, just slightly. The way tall people lean when they are trying to hear something from across a room. And at night, there were eyes. Not all the time, not every night, but twice now Lily had looked out her dark window and seen them. 2 sets of pale lights, low to the ground and very still, watching the cottage from the tree line. She did not tell her mother. Instead, she sat on the floor of her room with Gray and spoke to him in a low, steady voice, the way she always spoke to frightened things. "Someone's watching us," she said. "You already know that, don't you?" Gray lifted his head and looked at the window. A low sound came from his throat. Not quite a growl, something more complicated than that. Something that sounded almost like a warning. "It's okay," Lily said, putting her hand gently on his side. "They haven't come closer, not yet." Gray pressed his nose against her hand. Outside, the trees leaned in a little more.
They came on a Sunday afternoon. Lily was in the garden pulling weeds, which she had started doing to keep herself busy and to keep from thinking too hard, when she looked up and saw them. 3 wolves, standing at the edge of the trees. They were not small. They were not the kind of wolves you see in picture books, soft and manageable. These were enormous, with shoulders as high as a grown man's waist and eyes that caught the gray afternoon light and threw it back cold and sharp. They did not move. They just stood there and stared at her. Lily stood up slowly. Her heart was hammering, but she kept her face still. She was good at keeping her face still when she was scared. She had a lot of practice. "Can I help you?" she said, which was a strange thing to say to 3 wolves, but it was the only thing that came to her. The largest one, the one in the middle, stepped forward 1 single step. And then something happened that made the world tilt sideways under Lily's feet. It spoke. Not in words, not exactly, but a voice came from it like a sound pressed into her mind, heavy and certain and impossible. "Give us the pup." Lily felt cold all the way through. "There's no pup here," she said. Her voice only shook a little. "We can smell him, little girl, and we can smell you on him. Give him to us. This is not a request." Lily looked at those 3 sets of cold eyes. She thought about Gray on the floor of her room wrapped in the bluebird quilt, still healing, still fragile. She lifted her chin. "No," she said. The large wolf stared at her for a long moment, then it turned and walked back into the trees. The other 2 followed. But they did not go far. She could still see their pale eyes in the shadows, watching, waiting. That night, Lily sat on the floor beside Gray and told him what had happened. She kept her voice low and calm, even though her hands were shaking. She told him about the 3 wolves, about the voice in her head, about what it had said. Gray listened. His gold eyes were serious and still. When she finished, the room was quiet for a long moment. And then, Gray spoke. Not in her mind, out loud, with a voice that was rough and small and sounded like someone who had not used words in a long time. "They lied," he said. Lily went very still. "You can talk." "Sometimes," Gray said.
His voice was barely above a whisper. "When I am strong enough." "What do you mean they lied?" Gray's eyes dropped to the blanket. "They said they came for me, but they did not come to bring me home." He paused. His small chest rose and fell. "They came to finish what they started." The cold feeling was back. "Gray." Lily's voice was very careful. "Who hurt you?" He looked up at her. Those gold eyes were old in a way that had nothing to do with age. "They did. The pack. The Alpha decided I was weak. Decided I was wrong. I ran. I ran as far as I could. And I crawled under your bed because it was the first safe place I could find." Lily sat with that for a moment. The weight of it. "They want to kill you," she said quietly. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I survived," Gray said. "And that embarrasses him." Lily looked at the window, at the dark outside, at the pale eyes still waiting in the trees. "Okay," she said. Her voice was steady now. "Decided. Then we are not going to let them have you." Gray stared at her. "You would fight a pack for me?" "I would," Lily said simply. "Wouldn't you do the same?" Gray was quiet for a long time. Then, softly, he said, "No one has ever said that to me before." "Well," said Lily, "get used to it."
They left at 2 in the morning. Lily packed one backpack. She put in her warmest sweater, a water bottle, crackers, bandages, her phone, and the small amount of money she had saved from her birthday. She wrapped Gray in the blue bird quilt and helped him to his feet. He was stronger now, but still slow. She left a note for Mama Tran on the kitchen table. "Don't worry, I will explain everything soon. I love you. Please don't follow me tonight." She knew her mother would worry anyway. She knew that note was not enough, but there was no time for enough. She eased the back door open and they stepped out into the cold night. The woods were dark, the kind of dark that has no bottom. Lily turned on the small flashlight she had hooked to her backpack strap and took a slow breath. "Which way?" she whispered. "They won't follow us north," Gray said quietly beside her. He moved stiffly, but he moved. "There is something in the north part of the wood, something old. It makes them afraid." "What kind of something?" Lily asked. "The good kind," Gray said. Lily decided to believe him. They walked into the trees together, the flashlight making a small gold circle of safe around them. Behind them, from the direction of the tree line where the wolves had been watching, came a sound. Low and long and cold. A howl. They had been seen. "Go," Gray said, and his voice was urgent now. "We have to go faster." Lily grabbed his paw, which was warm and large in her hand, and they ran together into the dark of the northern wood. The trees swallowed them up. The howl came again. Closer this time.
They ran until Gray couldn't run anymore. Then they walked. Then Gray leaned heavily against Lily's side, and they walked like that, her taking some of his weight, both of them breathing hard in the cold air. The howls behind them had faded. The north woods were dead quiet in a way that felt deliberate, like the silence of a room where someone very powerful is sitting very still. Then Lily saw the light. It was a warm yellow light through the trees, low and steady like a lantern, and around it a small structure, walls built from dark wood and river stone, smoke coming from a chimney so small it was almost sweet. "Is that safe?" Lily whispered. "Yes," said Gray, and he sounded certain. She knocked on the door. It opened before her knuckles finished the third knock. The woman standing there was very old. Her hair was white and piled on top of her head like a snowdrift. Her eyes were sharp and gray, and the kind of eyes that have seen everything at least twice and are not surprised by any of it. She looked at Lily. She looked at Gray. She stepped back and opened the door wider. "I wondered when you'd come," she said. "Put him on the cot. There's broth on the fire." Her name was Marin. She fed them and she tended to Gray's wounds with herbs that smelled sharp and clean and seemed to work faster than anything Lily had ever seen. She did not ask many questions while she worked. She was the kind of person who gathered information with her eyes instead of her mouth. When Gray was resting and Lily was holding a warm cup with both hands, Marin sat down across from her. "You bonded with him," Marin said. It was not a question. "I just helped him," Lily said. "Yes," said Marin, "that is how it always starts." She looked at Lily with those sharp gray eyes. "But I need you to understand something, child. Helping him has already changed you in ways you have not noticed yet." Lily looked down at her hands around the warm cup. "What ways?" she asked. Marin reached over and turned Lily's left wrist gently toward the lantern light. And Lily saw it for the first time.
It was on the inside of her wrist. A mark, about the size of a large coin, glowing very faintly silver in the lantern light. It looked like two shapes wound around each other. One like a small hand, one like a wolf's paw, turning together in a slow circle. "When did this appear?" Lily asked. "The moment you reached your hand out under that bed," Marin said. "The moment he touched your fingers. You just couldn't see it yet." Lily stared at it. "What does it mean?" Marin folded her hands in her lap. "It is called a soul bond. It is very old and very rare. It means that you and Gray are connected now at a level that goes deeper than friendship or choice." She paused. "If he dies, you will feel it like a wound, and you will begin to fade." The room was very quiet. "And if I die?" Lily asked. "The same." Lily looked over at Gray on the cot. He was asleep, his sides rising and falling steadily, his gold fur soft in the firelight. He looked peaceful. He looked small. She thought about the pack in the trees, about the alpha's cold voice in her head. "Can it be broken?" she asked. "It can," Marin said, "but only if both choose it, and only when there is no love left between them." She tilted her head. "Do you want it broken?" Lily looked at the mark on her wrist. She looked at Gray. She thought about the way he had touched her fingers in the dark, the warmth that had locked into place inside her chest. "No," she said quietly. "I don't." Marin nodded slowly. "Then you need to be very brave, because the pack is coming. And when they come, the bond will make you a target too." Lily lifted her eyes to Marin's. "Tell me how to be ready." Marin looked at her for a long moment. Then, for the first time, she smiled. "Good girl."
They came at dawn. Lily heard them before she saw them, the sound of large bodies moving through the underbrush, the low, rolling growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Marin's lantern flickered as if even the flame was afraid. Gray was on his feet. He stood at the door of the cottage, tense and shaking, but standing. "You don't have to do this," he said to Lily. His voice was tight. "This is not your fight." "You touched my hand in the dark," Lily said. "It became my fight that night." She stepped out of the cottage before he could say anything else. The clearing in front of Marin's home was gray with early light. The trees around the edge were full of wolves, more than 3 now, 6, 7. Their eyes caught the weak morning light and held it. And in the center of them all stood the alpha. He was larger than the others in the way that mountains are larger than hills. His fur was black and his eyes were pale as ice. He looked at Lily the way people look at things that are very small and not very important. "Move aside, child," he said. His voice in her mind was like a stone dropping into deep water. Lily did not move. "You hurt him," she said. Her voice came out loud and clear in the cold morning air. She was surprised by how clear it was. "He was small and he was yours and you decided he wasn't worth keeping and you hurt him. And then he survived and that made you afraid. So you came here to finish it, because you are an alpha who was frightened of a pup." Silence. Every wolf in that clearing was still. The alpha stared at her. His pale eyes were unreadable.
are a child," he said. "Yes," said Lily, "and I am still not moving." The Alpha looked at her for a very long time. The clearing was so quiet that Lily could hear her own blood in her ears. She could feel the mark on her wrist warm and pulsing. She could feel Gray behind her, close, his warmth at her back. And then something shifted in the Alpha's pale eyes. It was small, just a flicker, but Lily had spent her whole life noticing small things. "He was not supposed to survive," the Alpha said. His voice was different now, quieter, something almost like pain in it. "But he did," Lily said gently, because she could hear that pain, and she was not the kind of person who hit something when it was already hurting. "He survived because he is strong, not weak, strong." The Alpha looked past her to Gray. Gray stepped forward and stood beside Lily. He was still smaller than all of them, still healing, but he stood straight. "I survived," Gray said clearly, "and I am not leaving." Something broke open in the Alpha's face, not in a violent way, in the way that walls break open when something has been pushing against them for too long and finally the push wins. He lowered his great head. It was not an attack, it was a bow. One by one, the wolves and the trees sat down. The growing stopped. The cold, pale eyes softened. And on Lily's wrist, the mark that had been silver turned slowly, quietly, to gold. Marin appeared in the cottage doorway and watched with her arms folded and something warm in her gray eyes. The cottage at the edge of the woods did not change that morning. The paint was still peeling. The shutters still hung crooked. But inside it and around it, something was different. There was a pack there now, not made of blood, not made of force or fear or rules about who was strong enough to belong, made of something better. Lily looked at Gray. Gray looked at Lily. The gold mark on her wrist glowed warmly in the morning light. "What happens now?" Gray asked. Lily looked at the trees, at the wolves settling quietly into the clearing, at old Marin and her lantern and her sharp, kind eyes. She smiled. "Now," she said, "we go home."